Ognen, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Martin. How about yourself? Good to see you
Excellent.
again.
Excellent sunny day.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed it is. Well, look, thank you very much for making the time for this fireside chat. We would love for the benefit of the audience if you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit of introduction on yourself, your background, and what's kind of brought you into the value space.
Oh, absolutely. So, hello, Ognen Borozanov, based out of Amsterdam, the Netherlands. A bit of an unusual name, as you might say. It's Macedonian. For those that haven't met a Macedonian before, there you go. I've been in this space for, depends how you look at it, either 15 or 20 years. So I started out as a banker and a management consultant back in the days, but mostly focusing on helping banks and insurers get extra value from obviously optimizing their processes. And then moved to Oracle, obviously one of the great enterprise software vendors, now a great AI company. Was one of the early value consultants there in Europe back in 2010. So I've kind of grown through the ranks there, and I have the pleasure, obviously, to have led a number of teams in Oracle that do value management, or as we call it, value services, or Oracle Insight. It's a great thing to do. It's obviously something that really brings value, pun intended, and really helps, I think, customers and organizations pause and think and sit back on not just being fascinated by a great piece of technology, but also about how it's going to impact their people, processes, as well as their strategy.
So I love that perspective that you just mentioned about it. It makes people pause, step back and understand a little bit more. It feels like there's a real buyer enablement piece that as consultants you do. I'd love for you to dive deeper into that because I think it's really important.
No, I mean, exactly. That's what drew me to the practice, because if you take a little bit of a skeptical view and you would say, why would you actually need as a, separate function or even a separate motion called value selling? It shouldn't just be, in a way, selling, or, every seller should be equipped to be also a value consultant. But, I think the reality is a little bit different. And for two reasons. On one hand side, technology is just fascinating. I mean, just in the last couple of years, it has brought so many use cases. But even in the last decade, life has just changed. Business life has just changed. And, I think when you start using it and really reflect, not just about the, shiny features, but how it's going to actually change your processes and change the way you do work. I think it's really needed because of that, to go through that initial excitement, but actually think, okay, let's use it, etc. So that's the one thing. And secondly, it's complex. In the end, I think every new piece of technology, it's complex and takes some, I think, upskilling from a customer, from a user side, stop doing some stuff as well, and also learning new ways. But in the end of the day, it's about going back to fulfilling your mission as a user, whether that's a bank or a public sector organization. You're there to not just get excited about technology, but actually to put it into good use. So
For sure.
that's where I see these two kind of angles coming.
Yeah. And you said you started your value career at Oracle, right? 15 years ago.
Yes.
What was the function like when you joined then versus what it's like now in terms of process maturity? Yeah. How has it evolved at a company like Oracle?
No, exactly. So obviously, it has gone through a few evolutionary steps for sure. I think, being with the luxury of, I think was one of the first, let's say, value organizations at that time was called Oracle Insight and Customer Strategy. You had the luxury of really having a very conscious development and a framework behind it. So with some pluses and minuses. So back in the days, it was for a global function with a global team, sharing a lot of knowledge and experiences across all the continents and time zones, and organized in three layers with a very identifiable, field team of value consultants. Then at the bottom, a lot of automation in the terms of the tooling and I guess sales enablement, versus in the middle having a very dedicated layer focused on kind of the hybrid operations, in a nutshell, delivering deliverables with a scalability team out of Center of Excellence in India. So it basically attempted to solve everything for everyone at the same time. And actually, it worked at that time, at that place, and it worked, and it was very exciting because it was still building and creating some new paradigms in that space. But at the same time, it had to evolve, for many reasons. So I guess that that model made sense at that time, and it delivered great business impact across both strategic customers as well as mid-size customers, as well as a lot of self-service by sellers, because that's where Oracle was at that time. But with cloud and completely different go-to-market motions, and now with AI and now with AI agents, you just need to evolve.
And I
guess the evolution was more in still focusing your investment, your let's say your expensive or extremely skilled consultants up the food chain, to really focus on really the top strategic deals that drive the obviously biggest impact, versus enabling kind of sellers, which were a little bit maybe left on their own devices, to do the value selling for the other deals.
I was just saying, how much is the role? How quickly does it need to evolve in terms of establishing? If the technology is evolving and continuously deploying and shipping new product, new features, I imagine there's a degree of playing catch up on establishing the value drivers for those and then building that into the sales methodology. I'd love to understand more. How do you keep up?
Well, I mean, it's a couple of things. So one thing is really to really help you being agile and to adopt all these different drivers, etc. Is to stop thinking as a product company, but more thinking about, we're here to enable digital transformation for our customers. So, and I think then the best thing to do is, and that's what we try to do, is to really have a framework where you almost already think about what are value drivers for a bank, what are value drivers for a manufacturing company, value drivers for a public sector organization, and then work backwards, and then see how all this exciting technology actually fits. Now, obviously, you can maybe afford doing that if you're a vendor that touches on multiple parts of the value chain, both, let's say, on the front and on the back office side. So if you're only focusing on one niche product that creates value in only one part of the company, it's a bit trickier. So it's not a universal answer, but at least that's our experience. We start from, how does the customer actually look at value creation for their stakeholders, and where can we fit and where can we advise them on what they can improve.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of, it's very logical, right? Because ultimately you build a product for value to the customer. And if you're, a company like Oracle is so broad in terms of its scope and reach in terms of different sectors, what's valuable to a manufacturing company may be very different to a financial services. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. But to add to that, I mean, there's still, I think, space or even an opportunity for more, I don't want to call niche, but even more special solution providers out there, because we also had stuff like that in our portfolio, to also still be confident in what you bring to the table in improving one process, but still think about holistically. Because at the end of the day, it's not enough just to convince the CFO that yes, we can help you reduce your time to close the books, because there's it's a very specialized space. But at the same time, he competes. He has 5 other competing priorities, from maybe cybersecurity to risk to investing in a new plant. So your ROI needs to be not just best of the breed for the close the books companies. It needs also to be sufficient to compare with his other strategic priorities that have nothing to do with your product, so to say. I don't know if that makes sense, but just picking out an example.
With a lot of the tools that exist today, if you had a crystal ball and you could predict what the role of a BVC would be in 10 years, how does it change?
Wow, I mean, it's a critical question, because obviously I won't be retired by then. and many people that are in actually starting out their career in business value consulting are gonna be still very young. It's difficult to say. I think there are two ways. Like 2 years ago, a lot of I was in a similar setting with a few peers, other leaders in the space, and I think the feeling on the table was that with ChatGPT and all the GenAI stuff, our role is almost becoming obsolete because right now almost anyone can go with their $20 subscription and create pretty decent analysis out there, so in 5 minutes. So, why do you need a human person to continue doing that? But to be honest, on the other hand, I've been doing this for 15 years and more. Some people have been doing this for 20 years and plus. The automation was there also decades ago. And the number of value consultants has increased tenfold, 20-fold, I don't know. So there is still that element, I think, of a human in the loop for sure. But it's in the end, I think value selling or value consulting is a people thing. And it's a very interactive thing. So I guess, to give a short answer, I think that there will be a lot of automation, a lot of intelligence that will almost change the shape of what we're doing by a very, very significant margin, 80 to 90%, I think, of the actual doing of the job will be changed, maybe with tooling, maybe with AI agents. But the matter of actually communicating and interacting with a customer, with a partner, with all the stakeholders, will be the crucial element there. And I think at the end of the day, value is not what you say or what you put on your deck or that comes out of your tool. Value is what a customer, what a buyer perceives. And the perception is where you really need to have that interaction.
It needs that human. Yeah, it needs that human in the loop. I agree. And also the thing about AI, it's wonderful in many respects. In this space, it needs precision. And right now, I think it can wow you in terms of the cool automation, but that's a novelty for 80%. That is a novelty because then when you dive deeper, it's actually not that accurate. And so it's never going to deliver anything that you could really put in front of a customer. It's just really cool because it's so much better than current search, but it doesn't mean it's going to actually deliver the job. It's just going to be cool to see it. Wow, how did it find out all this information?
Exactly. Exactly. You almost have like a great buddy, all-knowing,
a co-pilot.
Extremely fast buddy that advises you, but you still need to channel it. That's true, precision. So you need to make sure that it's precise, but also part of the role, and maybe some people will disagree, is as a value consultant, you also need to challenge and maybe sometimes pose uncomfortable questions to the customer for their benefit. And at least most of the AI tools nowadays, they just want to please you, and justify even the fallacies that you have. So I guess that's still remains, in my view, where you still need humans. But for sure, I think and maybe a third point, now that you say that, you inspire me, is I think that a lot of the work that currently happens in this interaction between a vendor and a customer in the value space will start transitioning from the vendor putting effort to do that actually transitioning to the customer doing a lot of that themselves, and as a self-service, self-research, self-educating, self-benchmarking, call it how you like, and because that makes sense, because then I think that's where automation will really help. Yes. And it just raises the bar for the conversation, because if obviously the customer, the user is extremely proficient in articulating their expectations about value, then also the vendors need to respond to the same level. Maybe that's too far out away, or maybe that's going to be just 1 year away. Who knows? But I see that trend coming. Its value is really the currency of the discussion.
And also because you made a really good point there, because a big part of the value actually should happen on the buyer side. Because as a consultant, your role is really to help your buyer identify the pains that they have and understand how your solution can solve them. But a lot of the time, your buyer, your champion, might never have bought your category before. They don't really know what they're buying or maybe understand. And so automated tooling for the buy side so that they can get a bit learned up on what they need to be looking for from an oracle or from whomever to know how to ask the questions, I think can enable the conversation between the vendor and the buyer in a much more let's say
definitely. And the thing is that back in the days, maybe the conversation was happened as static point in time. And maybe now with cloud and with the renewal, you renew that conversation if you're smart a year before the renewal. But with what you're just describing, that enables some more continuous conversation.
Value realization,
and that's the partnership, because if you want customers to continue using your technology for years, decades, and continue getting value from that, and whatever the product was that you pitched a couple of years ago, for sure it will be different 3 or 4, 5 years ago. So you need to have that value-based discussion continuously, almost with every new release or with every new functionality, or as the company and the buyer evolves. And I think that's where tooling and automation can greatly help keep that conversation fact-based rather than guesswork.
Yeah, and the value realization piece is where there's a lot of talk, right? And we even from Symbi, we built out a module to help understand how much value you're getting from in post sale, and track that value to keep the vendor and the buyer accountable for making sure that business case that was built is as fulfilled as possible, right? I think that's going to be more and more important, and equally, like you said, that also kind of lays on to the accountability to the buyer.
Absolutely. I mean, and I really think that it's easy to make the distinction pre and post sale, because that's how most vendors are set up. And I guess the buyer experience is also a bit different pre and post sale. But when it comes to value, I think this is so extremely connected. I mean, even in our team, we cannot do it from one place, both, because it's, when you're going back to an existing customer, it's kind of post-sales theoretically, but in reality, you're laying the foundation for a renewal, an expansion, or even an upsell expansion. And you can only do that confidently if you've delivered before.
Of course,
so you need to prove your value, and ideally prove the value that you promised, but also not show that there will be more value again. So it's kind of continuing interaction. Yeah. Okay.
Again, now it's time for the difficult questions to ask.
Oh, really?
Yes. the uncomfortable questions.
Okay.
First one is, we love to ask these questions. In your 15 years now of experience in the value space, who is the best business value consultant you've ever worked with?
Okay, well, this is a tough question, honestly. It's almost like, because I had a pleasure of being surrounded by very, very smart people, smarter than me for sure, and that everyone brought their own unique twist as well, whether because they were extremely expert in their industry, or expert in how they present themselves, or in the innovation they bring. And you're almost like asking me to select which of my kids I like the most. So but I guess it's on the other hand, like definitely Patrick Hurtig is a great gentleman out there in Stockholm, and it's a pleasure working with him. It's a pleasure witnessing him doing great stuff in customers. He really takes the interest of the client first, and really advises them as if he's their head of strategy, and then brings all the expertise in that he has in supply chain and in digital transformation. So which is great to see as well. So now probably 10 other people will be extremely upset, but on the other hand, it's not just me saying it. It's all the customers and all the KPIs that he has hit over the years.
Great to hear. I'm sure he'd be delighted. And also, who is the best sales rep you've ever worked with?
Okay, wow. Now, obviously, now it's almost like you're at the wedding and you don't want to offend anyone, so you need to obviously say that everybody, both sides of the family are hugely appreciated, and you just worry that you didn't invite your own. There are many, it just is the guys that also are partners. And there's actually, Jeremy Harding in the UK. And why? It's because he definitely can do a lot of the value selling, value engineering, value consulting himself, because he has the capacity of that. But he's not afraid to admit when he needs help, and he's also not afraid to also give feedback where he can improve. But why does he do that? Because he wants the best for his customer as well. And really, even when he was having a discussion on procurement or analytics, he was still thinking about how this company can, increase shareholder value by another 10%. So, that, and he's been in the business many, many years now successfully, and it's always a pleasure working with him. Yeah. So there you go. Wow, these were tough questions. Yeah, it's I was supposed to be relaxed. But there you go. But maybe I ask you back, Martin, then, like from all the, who are the superstars that you have come across? Because I guess you have the luxury of working with so many companies and so many value engineers and sellers. Yeah.
I'm asking the questions here.
Okay.
We're very fortunate to work with a lot of really great BVCs but equally advisors that we've had along the way, right? Everybody from Matthew Welsh to Dave Conrath, and there's so many incredible people that we've come across and worked with, and that equally have been instrumental in the design of our own product. So we rely on a lot of their insights of what's missing and what's necessary. But yeah, really, really great. Okay. I'm sure there's quite a few people that I've missed out as well.
No worries.
But really exciting.
There's one question you could have asked me, and I have almost the perfect answer. Where's the best deliverable that I have seen? And I say it's probably the one I'm gonna see tomorrow, because I'm still chasing the dream. It always needs to be better. So yeah, I think we can all improve and stretch. So yeah, let's go and chase that dream.
Let's do it. Ognen, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure.
Same here, Martin. All the best.
Likewise.